Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides, and for the latest updates, information, and picks, you can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Friday, August 19th, 2022, and this episode covers all of today's Major League Baseball games. In case you're new here, I've built a mathematical model for win probability and totals using hitter and pitcher projections I've created along with weather data in order to make one moneyline pick on every game that's played 7 days a week, though there are no Sunday shows. That doesn't mean that I recommend you do the same, as my goal in this episode is to share key information about today's games, give you a few things to think on, and explain what the model or I like or don't like a certain play in order for you to come up with picks that you are comfortable with. I never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with me or against me before investing your hard-earned money. And as I go through my plays, remember there are no locks in gambling, so what I'll give you are loves, likes, and leans to indicate my confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. And as always, please remember the good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say it'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Yesterday, A picks winners, B picks winners. On the week, A picks are about break even. B picks are positive. I keep talking about this. The B picks are doing as well as the A picks. Here in about the last 4 weeks or so, they've been doing really well, finally coming around like I had hoped all season. Again, I don't really know what happened early on in the season. It was really bizarre how the A picks were doing well. The B picks were always supposed to be like right behind them, and just a terrible run for them, but lately they've kind of been coming around. So again, I encourage these things to look at, maybe things I don't like quite as much, but maybe you like them a little bit more. So maybe you have more confidence in a B pick than an A pick than I have. And that's totally fine too. I think they're things to consider as you're going through your process and placing your wagers. And a few people pointed this out, and I've been kind of stubborn on it here. The B underdogs, and specifically the bigger B underdogs, specifically like the A's yesterday, have not done well, and I've been really slow to adjust. I'm going to try to do a better job in those bigger underdogs that are B plays. And I did it this morning here, really thinking through if I should drop that to a C grade pick, because the B plays, the B favorites have done really well, and the B smaller underdogs have done really well, but the B bigger underdogs haven't. So again, I'm going to start trying to be real more careful about that, because those have been really the B plays that have lagged. Otherwise, the B plays have still been doing fantastic, in the A plays, again, break even for this week, but on the season, so great. Obviously, we hope to get those back and have them, have a winning week here. Today, a lot of C plays, a lot of lines that I think are priced really well, but there's some totals to talk about, some bigger favorites. So there's a lot of interesting nuggets here that we will discuss today. But before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free and the only way, assuming you turn notifications on, to ensure you don't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. You heard cousin Jared talk about it yesterday. Really excited for the college football show coming up in a couple days. I cannot believe it's almost here. Share with a friend if you know others in the game. Hit me up on Twitter. Drop a comment if you're on YouTube. I love those and try to respond to as many as I can. And as a reminder, we've also partnered with horse racing today. If you bet on horses, you can find their stuff at horseracingtoday.net. They've got a team of 5 with over 125 years of combined experience in handicapping horse races. There's an angle they don't know or bias they can't identify. Check out their YouTube shows or website. The links are in the description. Today we've got one day game to kick us off. Thank God for the Cubs, right? Playing those day games, giving us something to watch here on an otherwise boring Friday afternoon, looking at the clock, right? 2:20 Eastern, first pitch, Brewers the Cubs here. It'll be a fairly warm day in Chicago, low to mid 80s all day, with the wind blowing out to left field at 10 miles an hour. And again, that park, it matters more than any other park, because when you look at the winds at most places, if it says 10 mile an hour wind, it's pretty variable, and it means that there's going to be times when it's 3 miles an hour, right? And at times it'll be up to 10, right? It's very variable, and a lot of times lower in other places. But at Wrigley, when it says 10 miles an hour, it means a pretty consistent 10, right? That wind matters much more there than any other ballpark. The fact that they don't have those big, grandstands at the back cutting that wind off. I mean, a wind blowing out in that park matters a lot. Most of you already know this. So again, it's just the way that park's built, being right on the coast, that city, right, by the lake there. Wind really matters. With 10 mile an hour wind, there means a lot blowing out. Fairly warm day. Model says total of 10.5. I'm seeing actual totals of 9 here. So the model would say to go over. Something to consider here. Again, a warmer day, wind blowing out, ball be flying. All right. With regards to the side, I'm at the Cubs here at plus 127. I think they got a shot. The Cubs are still playing hard. We saw it yesterday with that win over the Orioles. The Brewers coming off of an emotional, couple wins here against the Dodgers, taking 2 of those games. Coming on the road here now in the day. I'm on the Cubs here plus 127. I think the Brewers should be favored, but not by this much. Model says Brewers minus 119, so it's a B pick for me on the Cubs. Pitcher-wise, I like Aaron Ashby more than Keegan Thompson. Even though Thompson's ERA is better, their underlying metrics almost have these flipped, right? Ashby's ERA is in the low 4s. Underlying metrics say it should be in the mid-upper 3s. Thompson's ERA is in the mid-3s. It says underlying metrics say it should be in the low 4. So I like Ashby more than I like Thompson. But offensively, these teams are actually a lot closer than a lot of people think. We talked about the Brewers' offense being hot and cold a lot. Then the Brewers, facing a righty, get a slightly above average rating, but the Cubs are really right-handed heavy. Facing a lefty, get a pretty big boost. The Cubs against a lefty actually rate better than the Brewers here. So, offensively, it's probably a wash. Now, of course, the Brewers will bring in a righty in relief, so that'll kind of go away as the game moves along, but kind of a wash offensively here between these two teams. Pitching-wise, the Brewers will have an edge, but the game's in Chicago. Again, the Brewers should be favored, but not by that much. So I'm on the Cubs here at plus 127 with a B-grade pick. It's not enough value to get really excited about it, but it's enough value that I think the Cubs got a shot here at these plus odds. Is worth a look here to see if they can get it done at home in Game 1 of this series. Game Brewers coming off a couple of big wins against the Dodgers, maybe a letdown spot here for them. I think the Cubs got a shot to pull it off here in a game that should have a lot of runs with the warmer day and the wind blowing out. To the night game, 7:05 Eastern, first pitch, Reds at the Pirates. Mid-80s to start, mid-70s to close. Slight breeze blowing in, should stay under 5 miles an hour. There's no real wind effect. Graham Ashcraft versus Bryce Wilson. I like Ashcraft. We talked about him all season as he's come up. I think he's got some promise as a young kid. Gets a very average rating, slightly better than average. Pretty good for a first-year guy, 3.96 ERA. Underlying metrics say that's pretty spot on for him. Pretty solid pitcher here for the Reds, young guy. Bryce Wilson for the Pirates, on the other hand, not solid. 5.93 ERA, and again, the underlying metrics do say it should be about a run better, but that's still not good. Big edge for the Reds here. Starting pitcher-wise, both bullpens are terrible. We were on the Pirates yesterday, and I made the comment, maybe take first 5 because their bullpen's really bad. I said the game plan for the Pirates had to be to get up early because those relievers were so terrible, and they did. They got up early for us. They got up big, so it didn't matter, and that's how the Pirates are going to have to win ball games. If they get up just by a little bit, they're gonna blow more games than they're gonna win. That bullpen is so bad. Now the Reds' bullpen is bad as well, but at least the Reds start off with a good starting pitcher here. Offensively, the Reds traded everybody away now without Joey Votto. A very bad offense. Pirates' offense, I guess it rates better, but neither offense is good. The biggest difference maker here, I think, is Ashcraft versus Wilson. I don't trust Bryce Wilson at all. The model says the Reds should be slight favorites to the tune of about a price of minus 115. At minus 110, it's a B-grade pick. Minus 110 is about as high as I want to go in a B-grade pick. As it gets towards that minus 115 number, the model says it drops to a C-grade play. I'd still be on the Reds at that point, but again, you're just scaling back your investment because you're paying a premium for on the road for not a very good team, right? The Reds aren't very good. So again, I like this as it's closer to even money here at minus 110. I think it's worth a look. But again, if you're looking at minus 115 or minus 120, it's either just a really light investment or just a pass and move on to other games because, again, you're paying too much of a premium for a bad team on the road. Again, biggest difference, so I think Ashcraft over Wilson is enough to make me say I do think I'm okay with laying a price on the Reds. I just want to lay a low price, again, minus 110. Is a B-grade play. Total in this game, 7.5. Model says 8.3. It's going to start off a little bit warmer. And again, all these pitchers are really bad, so the model thinks there can be some runs. We have seen bad pitching versus bad hitting. Bad pitching has won out. I'm not sure if that carries with the Pirates, though, and how bad Bryce Wilson and those relievers are. It'll be a real test of that theory today. I think it'll be a real interesting one to see if this is a lower scoring or a higher scoring game. Obviously, we can't draw too much off of one game, but this is some bad offenses here tonight, but some really bad pitching, especially once you get Ashcraft out of the game. Bad Reds relievers, bad Pirates pitching all night long. Model thinks 7.5 is a little low. Model thinks the total should be 8, something to consider there as well. 7:05 Eastern, first pitch, Mets at the Phillies, mid-80s to start, around 80 degrees to close, and wind blowing out at about 10 miles an hour. That's why the total's at 8, because, again, wind blowing out here is going to give the hitters a little bit of a boost. Model says 8.1, so the model says total's priced very well in this one. Otherwise, with Nola and Bassett on the hill, I would say I like the under spot here. But again, with that wind blowing out, a little bit warmer, model says 8 actually is a pretty good number. And again, the Mets offense is really good. The Phillies offense is pretty solid, above average at least. And so some good offenses here, wind blowing out. Model says 8's a good number. Bassett, 3.27 ERA in the season. Underlying metrics say maybe a tiny bit worse, but again, a pretty good season for him. Nola's creeping up here to become one of the top pitchers in the starting pitcher database. I think right now he's tied for second behind DeGrom, a bunch of pitchers there with that 72 rating when I ran the update this morning. Having a phenomenal season, 3.07 ERA, and the underlying metrics say it should actually be a tiny bit better than that. Coming into the season, I think we thought Wheeler was going to be better than Nola. As it turns out, it's kind of flipped the other way around. Wheeler's been good. Nola's been great this season. Edge to the Phillies with regards to the starting pitcher. Bullpens are probably a wash. Both sets of bullpens here are pretty solid. Offensively, of course, the Mets have an advantage, games in Philadelphia. All that combines to say the Phillies should be a minus 115 favorite according to the model. So I'll take Phillies minus 117, but there's really no edge in this game. Right now it's priced fairly well. Again, at the price here, I'd rather have Phillies. I think the Phillies should be favored. I think minus 117 is just a little bit more than I want to pay, though, so it's only a C-grade pick. It's kind of pretty much the same spot as the Reds-Pirates game. If this drops down to about minus 110 on the Phillies, that would be a B-grade investment. Or if the Reds jump up to minus 117, that's a C-grade investment. So it's kind of a pretty similar story here between those two teams. I slightly like the Reds and I slightly like the Phillies. It's all about the price. You're having to pay those extra 7 cents. I'm still on the Phillies, but just at a smaller investment here because you're paying a little bit of a premium against a really good Mets team. The one potential added benefit, and again, I have no idea if this is going to have any effect. Anytime we try to peg these things, we're very 50-50 on if we can nail it or not. But you do have to wonder about the Mets coming off an emotional 4-game series against the Braves. Those were some interesting games, the games that we're getting up for. Not to say the Mets aren't getting up for the Phillies. You just wonder coming off of that series, now traveling, Phillies with the day off yesterday, maybe that provides a little bit of an advantage for the Phillies rested to have a slight edge versus the Mets who played last night in Atlanta. So something that, again, I'd rather be on the Phillies here at a small price. It's just I don't love the price enough to give it a B grade. If it drops a little bit, a different story, but at 117, I'm still on the Phillies just a little bit less. Same start time here, still in the 7 o'clock Eastern window. Red Sox at the Orioles. Mid-80s to start, around 80 degrees to close. Winds will be blowing out to left field. Closer to 10 miles an hour to start, but around 5 to finish. So some wind help, but not quite as much as we're going to see up the road in Philadelphia. Cutter Crawford versus Jordan Lyles. Crawford's looked solid as of late. I'm not really buying it, though. He does have 418 on the season, and the underlying metrics say that's pretty accurate. I think he's okay. I think he's probably good enough to hang around a rotation, but I don't think he's that good. Model gives him a 109 rating. Model likes Jordan Lyles a lot better, a guy who's consistently going to go out there and give you some length at least, and very rarely going to go out there and give you 7 shutout, but probably can give you 6 innings, give up 2 runs. I mean, just have a solid outing here. Very average pitcher. Model gives him a 101. He does have a slightly higher ERA on the season than Crawford, but again, a guy that underlying metrics I trust a little bit more. Again, just having a solid season, nothing special, but much better than we've seen some of his previous years. Offensively, the Red Sox have a little bit better of an offense. Of course, relievers, they grade out about the same right now. But, I'd still take this Orioles bullpen any day over the Red Sox bullpen. Games in Baltimore, it's kind of a wash here. The model says that the better pitcher is Lyles with the stars as a starter, but the Red Sox have a better offense. That's kind of a wash. Game in Baltimore, Orioles should be a minus 117 favorite. But I'm on the Orioles here at minus 108. Cousin Jared talked about this a lot, right? The difference in these numbers closer to even money is a larger probability edge. This is a bigger edge than you'd think from minus 108 to minus 117. Now, you're still paying the same 9-cent difference, whether it's here or at a higher price, but the edge is different. And so it's you have to keep both those things in mind here, that every penny that you save around even money is still the same pennies you save at the higher prices. It's just you're getting a bigger edge. You're getting more bang for that penny in this case. I like the Orioles here. I'm not sold on the Red Sox at this point. They're just very, sometimes they come out and look okay, and other times they just don't. I'm just not sure as the season moves along. They're just kind of all over the place, but the Orioles kind of go out there and fight every day. They lost yesterday. We were against them yesterday. The odds were just way too high, but here today at home, they play really well against the AL East. Around even money, I think, is a great investment here. Minus 108 is an A-grade play for me on the Orioles. If it's above minus 110, that probably drops to a B-grade play if Baltimore money comes in. But under minus 110, I think it's a great investment on the Orioles. I like them tonight. I like Lyles to keep them in the game, and then I trust that Orioles bullpen to get it done for us here at home. I think the Orioles are a great investment. Game that the total is 9. Model says 9.6. Model would indicate to go over. Thinks there's a lot of runs. The Orioles are just a tough team, though. They've been mostly an under team. Model said to go over yesterday, and that didn't work out. So Model would lean over. I'm not so sure as much on this one. And again, with the Red Sox, you just never quite know what you're going to get from them. So again, Model would say over. I think there's probably better total investments on the board rather than this one. 7:05 Eastern, first pitch, Blue Jays at the Yankees. Mid-80s to start, around 80 degrees to close. Winds will be blowing across throughout the night on this one. Kevin Gausman versus Jamison Taillon. Gausman, 3.16 ERA, having a great season. The underlying metrics love him. Say he should have an ERA closer to 2.5. He gets a very good rating, a 75 in the database. Again, Model just loves this guy. A lot of the advanced metrics love Gausman. Taillon, a good pitcher, not great. 3.95 ERA, that's exactly where the underlying metrics and projection have him. Again, better than average, but not quite anywhere near where Gausman is. Of course, the Yankees have a better offense, especially righty on righty here. I trust the Yankees offense more, but I mean, it didn't work out last night. Bullpen-wise, the Blue Jays bullpen is surprisingly closer to the Yankees bullpen than I'd imagine. I'm as shocked as y'all are on this one, but for the first time for a long time, the model says to play the Blue Jays here. Model says it should be Blue Jays minus 107, so I'm going to ride it with the Blue Jays minus 105. It's as high as I want to go with a B-grade pick at this number of minus 105. I'd like it closer to even money, but it still hangs on to a B at minus 105. In the minus 106 to minus 110 mark, I'd still be on the Blue Jays, but it would drop to a C-grade play. Motto says the Blue Jays should still be road favorites in this game. Like I said, it really surprised me. I've kind of been on this. The Yankees offense is still solid train. They kind of busted out there after that rain delay against Tampa. They didn't look good last night. And the model's not seeing what happened last night and saying, hey, the Blue Jays are back or anything like that. It's just the Blue Jays offense is still good. I've never doubted that. It's just I've said they've been mispriced. I've said people have been treating them like they're a much better team than they are. But in this case, I mean, they have a massive edge starting pitcher-wise with Gausman. And so they should be favored in this game. And, I'm perfectly willing to flip back on teams when there's value. And there hasn't been value on the Blue Jays much at all in the last month or so, maybe 2 months. Tonight, I think there is. We're on the Blue Jays here for the first time in a long time at minus 105 to see if they can go into Yankee Stadium and get another win. Again, biggest thing here is just a huge starting pitcher discrepancy. Again, the model says it's priced pretty right with regards to total. Model says 8.2. Actual total is 8. So again, just sticking with the Blue Jays on this one, see if they can win another game on the road. 17 Eastern start time. Angels at the Tigers. Mid-80s to start, mid-70s to close. Winds are blowing in 5 to 10 miles an hour. So we're expecting a lower scoring game. Total is 7.5. Model thinks 7.3. Again, with the night getting chillier as it goes along, and in those winds blowing in. 2 decent pitchers. Patrick Sandoval, definitely above average, 3.42 ERA, and underlying metrics agree with that. Say it's not a mirage. He's a pretty good pitcher here for the Angels. Matt Manning for the Tigers, only 5 starts this year, 3.24 ERA. Now, it's probably a little bit friendly. He's probably not that good, but he's having decent results so far. Probably fairly average pitcher for the Tigers. Tigers relievers still great above average. Angels relievers, of course, don't. But the Tigers offense, obviously really bad. So again, Model thinks a low-scoring game. Model thinks Angels should be favored, but only by minus 116, not the minus 130 or minus 140 prices that you're seeing out there. It's Tigers or pass. I think the Tigers got a shot in here. It's a coin toss-ish type game. Plus 125, I think, offers some value. Talked about the B-grade plays. that have struggled have been the plus 170 type plays like the A's yesterday. These smaller favorites have done okay. I think the Tigers are worth a look here, just like the Cubs at this plus 125-ish price, in a game that maybe the road team should be favored, but not quite by as much as the odds makers are indicating. I think there's some value here on Detroit. I think they can win this one close to 50% of the time, just shy. And that makes plus 125 a worthwhile investment. Not enough value to give it an A grade, but enough value to give it a look here. I think the Tigers got a chance. Again, Sandoval's pretty good, but once you get past Sandoval, that Angels bullpen is bad. As bad as Tigers offense is, the Angels offense also isn't good. So anything can happen in this game. Might be some bad baseball, and if it's an anything can happen bad baseball type game, give me plus 125 every day of the week. 7:10 Eastern, first pitch Rays hosting the Royals. Brady Singer versus Shane McClanahan. I loved backing McClanahan last time. We got some value on him after a couple bad starts. People, I guess, thinking a couple bad starts meant he was a bad pitcher or something foolish. He's still really, really good, tied for that second place rating in the according to the model for the starting pitchers. I was hoping to get some good value and back him again for the same thing. Of course, the problem is Brady Singer is the only competent pitcher on the Royals and a pitcher we've liked to back because he actually – I think Singer does for the Royals what people thought Montas would do for the A's. They're pretty similar. I think Singer's maybe a little bit better, but they're pretty similar. It's just people were like really overvaluing what Montas could do for a bad Oakland team, and they're undervaluing what Singer can do for a bad Royals team. And it's like there's been some value on Singer. We got that win with him against the Dodgers on Sunday at huge plus odds. That was a lot of fun. And I like backing Singer here. Again, not that he's amazing. He's a good pitcher. I hate that these two guys are going against each other. It's a terrible matchup for us here. Two guys I like to back. But again, I think highly both of these guys. Both of them underlying metrics are just slightly higher than their ERAs. I mean, both of them are the real deal. Singer's good. McClanahan's great. Rays should be massive favorites in this game. Absolutely. They got it done last night in a bullpen game. And you saw that Royals bullpen. That's the biggest problem with them is their bullpen is terrible. And they kind of hung in there, which is what you wanted with the big plus odds yesterday. But just too many bad pitchers at some point. One of them was going to give up a ton of runs, and sure enough, one of them did, and the Rays exploded in one of those middle innings. Tonight, that shouldn't happen with Singer on the hill, but Singer's probably not going to go 9. The Rays offense is much better than the Royals offense. After these two starting pitchers, their relievers are much better. Again, probably not going to be as big of a deal, but McClanahan's still much better than Singer. As much as I like Singer, McClanahan is amazing. Very similar to the Blue Jays-Yankees setup, right? McClanahan and Gausman are pretty similar, and Taillon and Singer are fairly similar. Again, it's not that the pitchers are bad. It's just they're being outmatched by really, really good pitchers here. Model says Rays minus 199. Minus 191 on the Rays. It's a C grade pick for me. It's a C plus pick. If you can get any better on this, it might jump to a B pick. It's risking a lot against a pitcher like Singer who can dominate the game. Again, the Rays offense is about average, and Singer's good enough to hold that down. So I'm just not comfortable laying a big price here and giving this a B grade with the Rays offense against Singer. If Singer could handle the Dodgers, he can handle this Rays offense. Not to say he will. Again, I think the Rays should be favored. I think the Rays are more likely to win. I still think McClanahan's better than Singer, but it's a big price. So model says there's a little edge. So there's a lot of C grade plays, and this is where hopefully you can dive into the numbers and hear what I'm saying. There's a lot of C-grade plays where I'm like, hey, I think it's priced really well. I wouldn't touch it. This one I think that you should look at. The Rays offer some value at this price. Mathematically speaking, 191 offers an edge. It's worth a look. It's not a C play that I'm like, I'm just making a pick. It's a C play that I think is worth a little bit, but if the price is so high, I just don't want to risk 4 units to win 2. That's just too much to go against Singer. But I do think it's worth a look. I think as long as the number starts with a 1, the Rays are a decent investment. It's just not a great investment. So if you're limiting your plays, maybe this is when you pass on, but maybe when you just give a look on, watch the price. If it drops a little bit, maybe the Rays are worth a look. But as it is right now, only a C-grade pick just because it's quite a premium. I like being on the Rays. I just don't like the price here tonight going against a good pitcher like Singer in a game that's totaled at 6.5, and the model says 6.1. Model would indicate going under on this one. I think if you're looking at this total, I think you really have to ask yourself one question. That's how long can Brady Singer pitch is the key to this game. If he is out after 5 innings, I would be terrified of taking this under because the Royals bullpen is so bad, 4 innings of them or 3 innings of them, you're probably giving up 3 or 4 extra runs right there, and it might not be hard to get to 7. If you think Singer can go 7, maybe you take the under. If the Rays win, they don't bat in the bottom. If Singer goes 7, I could see the Rays winning this game something like 3-1. So I think under still might be the way to look. Model says 6.1, and we've seen some of these good pitching matchups, and the model still said a total of 7. So the model saying 6.1. It can go. It doesn't usually go this low. So I wouldn't just blind take over 6.5 and just say, 6.5 means auto over. Some of the 6.5s we said go over. This one, I don't think I'd go over on it. I would just, if you're worried about how deep Singer goes, I might pass on it and just leave the number alone. There's not enough value at 6.5. I'd love going under 7, of course. Under 7 would be fantastic if you can get that without paying too big of a premium. Under 7 will be amazing. But I'd still probably look under 6.5. The biggest question is how deep can Singer go? I probably wouldn't play first 5 for the same reason we talked about yesterday with the Braves and Mets. And that played out almost exactly like we talked about. Playing first 5, you had to pay too much of a premium. I believe that game was 2-2 after 5, and so you would have lost your first 5 bet, but you would have won the full game under. So, I think that was a perfect example that Cousin Jared and I talked about yesterday. That is, the first 5, when it's good pitchers, that number just drops like a rock, and there's just too much variability. And I think that was exactly what I was saying. It's like there might be a few runs early, you just never know about the variability of when it's going to happen, and then it's going to – but overall, in the full 9 – you got to like the under there. And so I don't think I'd go first 5 under here too. It's just you're paying way too much for a premium. But in general, I think if you think Singer can go deep enough in this game, I think under 6.5 might offer some value here. I think the Rays might offer some value too. Just kind of depends on the number that you're getting. 17 Eastern start time, White Sox at the Guardians. My play of the day here, my favorite one. Massive mathematical edge here on the Guardians at -123. Easy A-grade play, a no-brainer here. Model says it should be Guardians -161. Against a righty, the Guardians project to have a better offense. They project with a better bullpen, and Tristan McKenzie projects better than Lance Lynn. At home, they should be massive favorites in the here. Lance Lynn might figure it out. He has a 5.62 ERA this season. He hasn't figured it out yet. Now, the underlying metrics for him say it should be in the upper 3s. So the underlying metrics are not as down on him as his ERA. So, there's definitely hope for him to figure it out. But, the underlying metrics are positive on Giolito. We saw what happened with that yesterday. So, sometimes it just doesn't click. Lynn's looked pretty bad so far. I love this number, even if Lance Lynn figures it out. I still think the Guardians have a great chance to win because I like Tristan McKenzie a lot. The rest of that Guardians team is solid. And even if Lance Lynn has figured it out at home, the Guardians probably should be favored by more than -123. If Lance Lynn hasn't figured it out, this is going to be the easiest money we've made all week. So there's a lot of ways we could win this play. If Lance Lynn is off, I think we've got it in the bag. Even if he's on, I still think we've got a great shot. -123 is way too low of a price on the Guardians. Easy A-grade play for me. Doesn't mean they'll win. It just means that they win this more times than not by a long shot, in my opinion. A-grade play for me here. Again, I like McKenzie, 3.14 ERA in the season. Underlying metrics say he's probably not that good, but he's still been very good and a great pitcher at home. I wrote this one up already as a play today. Like I said, it was an easy call. There's really not much else to say. Weather-wise, it'll be about 80 degrees. It'll be mid-70s to finish. No real wind effect, mostly under 5 miles an hour. A game that the model says a total of 7.3. The actual total is 7.5. I don't really think the White Sox are going to score off McKenzie, and I think they'll score off a Lynn. So it's a total that I think probably is a stay away. Just focus on the Guardians in this one. And like I said, I think we got a lot of ways we can win that one. Last one here, starting in this time slot, 7:20 Eastern, first pitch. Astros at the Braves, rematch of last year's World Series. Should be a fantastic series, and we're starting off with a banger tonight. Lance McCullers Jr. versus Kyle Wright. McCullers looked pretty solid in his first outing back this season with 6 innings. Of course, shutout innings. Of course, it was against the A's. As an Astros fan, that set up perfectly for him. We talked about him struggling in his rehab appearance before that, not really knowing what that meant. Perfect soft landing spot playing the A's. Got a couple of double play balls, which he gets those. He gets a lot of ground balls. So kind of, as a fan, hard to say exactly how good he'll look tonight. It's a much tougher task going against the Braves. So, part of you can say, hey, he got the job done against the A's. He's a good pitcher, and now it's time to go out and show why he's getting the big bucks. Part of you says, I mean, it was first start back, and it was only against the A's, so it's like maybe it might be a rude awakening. It's kind of tough to say here. I think it's an open question. I'm really curious to see. I don't have a lot of confidence either way. Kyle Wright, we have a lot of confidence in being a good pitcher, and the model still says Kyle Wright's a better pitcher than McCullers. I mean, better pitcher at home. I mean, the Braves should be favored in this game, and the model says they should be favored to the tune of a price of minus 125. So I'm on the Braves at minus 118. It's only a C pick here. It's not a big enough edge to give it a B grade. It's a C plus pick. It's almost there if the price drops a little bit more. It's a B pick. It's really only a C pick for me. It's similar to the Rays. It's not a C pick that I think is priced. I don't think the model's priced or the game's priced perfectly here. I think you should look at the Braves. I'm tempering my investment because there's a lot of variability with McCullers. I really just don't know what we're going to get from him. I felt a little more confident that he could look good last time. I think we had maybe a B grade pick laying massive odds against the A's. I felt a little more confident there against the bad offense, but now I just don't know what we're going to get from him. That extra variability just adds that uncertainty that I think the Braves have value here at minus 118. I think you should look at them, but I just don't want to be too heavily invested because McCullers might go 6 shutout again today. Might get hit around pretty hard. But I think the Braves should be bigger favorites in this. Kyle Wright's a fantastic pitcher. He's a better pitcher than McCullers. The Braves are at home. Their offense trails the Astros offense, but not by that much. Again, the Astros are pretty right-handed heavy, so you like them to face a lefty facing a righty to get a tiny bit of a ding. Braves relievers are fantastic. Like I said, the Braves should be bigger favorites in this. You do have to wonder potentially about any hangover effect. Talk about the Braves and Mets. But, I mean, if the Braves can't get up for the team they just played in the World Series, I mean, again, you have to wonder about it with the Mets. I don't really know. But the Astros, it's not like the Phillies. Phillies were off yesterday. Astros played yesterday in Chicago and traveled. So, I mean, maybe that probably affects both teams. So, I mean, like I said, bottom line is I think the Braves should be favored by more. Like I said, I'm just tempering my investment because I just don't know what I'm going to get with McCullers. Really good Lance McCullers is a top 15, top 20 pitcher in the game. McCullers can be shaky, though, coming off an injury here. Just not really sure what to expect. So I'm on the Braves, just only a C-grade pick, though, for me. And again, the model says go under. Model says total should be 7.9. The actual total is 8.5. It's going to be chillier in Atlanta, so I tend to agree. I think under's a way I would look here. You do have that question mark with McCullers. Maybe getting hit around would be the only caveat there again. But in general, we've got a lot of good pitching in this game, a lot of good relievers, good offenses. But again, mid-70s to start, around 70 degrees to close, and a slight breeze blowing in. It's a fairly friendly pitcher night here in Atlanta, despite it being, August. Also, we do have some potential for some pop-up showers, just like we've had, stop me if you've heard of this before, right? Same story in Atlanta. Some pop-up showers, always a possibility. Could throw a small delay in the game as well. Should get in, but there might be a delay, whether to start or sometime in the middle. But again, pitcher-friendly night. I think 8.5 is too high. I'd go under 8.5 on this one. Like I said, I think the Braves are worth a look. Just hard to say exactly how deep you should go with that investment given the uncertainty around McCullers. But I trust Kyle Wright. We've trusted him all year. A fantastic pitcher at home to back. I think the Braves should be favored by more than they are. To the 8 o'clock time slot, only one game starting at 8 o'clock Eastern somehow. That blows my mind. Rangers at the Twins. It'll be a chance of rain in Minnesota, maybe the more concerning one of the night that might have some issues, one you want to check back on throughout the day. Around 70 degrees to start, mid-60s to close, so a chilly night there. No real wind effect. It should stay under 5 miles an hour. Model says total of 8.3, actual total is 8. So even though it's chilly, the model says that the pitching is bad enough between the Rangers bullpen and Dylan Bundy that there might be some runs. It's a total I think I'd stay away from, though, because I just don't know what I'm going to get here. If Martin Perez can go deep, it eliminates that bad Rangers bullpen. You got a good Twins bullpen behind Bundy. If they only ask him to go twice through the lineup and turn it over, I mean, I could see a low-scoring game here. But if the Rangers bullpen's involved or they let Bundy go too deep, could be some runs. So total I think I'd stay away from. Model says 8.3, again, total of 8. It's not really a huge edge. It's priced fairly well, too. The model says it should be Twins minus 120, so I'll take the Rangers at plus 123, a tiny mathematical edge, not enough to get to a B play. I like Martin Perez. He's pretty good. 2.79 ERA. Underlying metrics say it should be in the mid-threes. Above average pitcher, much better than Dylan Bundy. It was a 4.76 ERA. And the advanced metrics say that's about who he is. Maybe he's not quite that bad, but he's pretty close. I mean, a huge starting pitcher edge here for the Rangers. Of course, that's the only place they have an edge. Twins offense is much better. Twins relievers are much better, and it games in Minnesota. So the Twins should be favored. It's just not at a favorable price to back them. And Martin Perez is a guy who can win the game for us. So at plus odds, I think the Rangers are the side to look at. It's just not a big enough edge to get excited about. Again, only a 3-cent differential here. I just can't be that excited with a bad Rangers team. But I'll take a flyer with Martin Perez because he can absolutely win this game for us. And again, Dylan Bundy's not a guy you want to be backing at bad prices here against a good pitcher. So it's kind of Rangers or pass at this price. I think the Rangers are worth a look here, especially if the price jumps. Martin Perez is a great pitcher to back, but again, just not a big enough edge. It's not quite big enough to get me excited enough for a B-grade play at the price this morning. 8:40 Eastern start time, Giants at the Rockies, mid-70s in Denver, upper 60s closing. Chance of rain, game should happen, probably just light showers to be able to play through if it hits. Winds will be blowing in at about 10 miles an hour to start, blowing out by about 5 miles an hour to finish. So a shift in the wind direction on this one. I'm going to say probably no real wind effect at all. And it's chilly or not, of course, the ball's still going to fly in that ballpark. It's not cold. Early in the season in Denver, we say when it's in the 40s and 50s, we're like, it kind of plays more like a normal ballpark now, right? I mean, it's still kind of big, but the ball doesn't fly at all. But the ball still should fly in around 70 degrees in that park with the altitude. So still going to be a lot of runs. Model says go under 11.5. The model says the total should be 11.1. Model says go under the 11.5. Alex Wood's a good pitcher. The issue with going under is it's still Coors, and Alex Wood is the only good pitcher in this ball game. Again, I like him a lot. We've talked about him much better than that 4.18 ERA. Underlying metrics say his ERA should be in the low threes. The issue with Wood is, talked about it a lot, he doesn't go that deep in a lot of ball games. If he's not going deep, turns it over to a bad Giants bullpen. And the Rockies with Urena, not good. 4.80 ERA underlying metrics say he's worse than that, even in a bad bullpen there. So, I mean, there's just a lot of bad relievers. So, again, model might say go under 11.5. It's a pass for me on the total completely just because I only trust one pitcher in this ball game. And that's not a recipe for an under unless you had unless you gave me under 13 or something, right? And then you're not going to get that. Model says Giants minus 160. In this game, I'll take the Giants at minus 155 with the B-grade play. It's as high as I want to go with the B-grade, but it just ekes in there with that 5-cent edge. A lot of games that are really on the cusp of B and C grade plays here. I mean, you can kind of see there's a lot of 3-cent edges here, 5-cent edges there. Where do I draw the line? I mean, it's really a continuous scale, right, to take you behind the curtain. Having only, I have to make 3 cut points. I mean, this is a B- pick, right? The Rangers might have been a C+ pick, and this is a B- pick, right? But it kind of just is what it is here. I don't have that much more confidence in the Giants than the Rangers. It's a little bit more, and at some point I got to draw the line somewhere. I like the Giants. I like the Rangers. Rangers I'm just a tiny bit less excited about at that edge than I am the Giants at this one. Again, the model does give the Rockies a big boost being at home, and it still says this price at minus 155 is short, says it should be minus 160. So I'm giving the Rockies every advantage I can give them for Coors Field. And I still think that the Giants are the side here. We haven't backed the Giants a ton this season. I've been really down on them the last couple of months. I thought they've been overpriced for the most part. Their bullpen has maybe shown signs of life lately and not being quite as terrible, maybe. They just haven't been as bad the last week or so as they've been before. So if they can get that going, the Giants are a competent baseball team. They have a pretty good offense. It's not Dodgers level, it's not Mets level, right? It's not Cardinals level, but I mean it's decently above average. It's just those and the starters are great. The relievers are just so terrible. Maybe if they can get that going, they can at least be a decent baseball team to close out this season. Again, I think they should be bigger favorites in this. I'll take them at minus 155 with a B-grade pick. I like Alex Wood. I don't like Jose Urena. I expect the Giants to be up early, and then at that point, it's a battle of bad bullpens, and they should be able to hold on for a victory. 9:40 Eastern first pitch, Cardinals at the Diamondbacks. Got that easy A-grade winner with the Cardinals yesterday. Again, Rockies not a team you want to be backing on the road. The Cardinals scored a ton early, and then there was the pitcher injury, and they just kept scoring after after that. Today they're traveling to Arizona here. Miles Michaelis versus Tommy Henry. Michaelis, a pitcher who I've been saying his ERA, he's not as good as that 2 ERA he had. He had a couple bad starts, and now the ERA a little bit more representative of who he is. 3.44 ERA. Underlying metrics have it about a quarter of a run higher, so much more representative now. So I'll say Michaelis is a decent pitcher. I said it the whole time. I just said he wasn't as good as that ERA. It's the same thing I say every time about Urias. It's the same thing I say about Gonzalez. And it hasn't happened for Gonzalez, but I say it for Michaelis, and it finally happened for him. So maybe it'll happen for those two guys eventually too. Who knows? But he, again, ERA finally kind of catching up with a good pitcher. Still a good pitcher. Gets an 89 rating. Just wasn't as good as that ERA made him look early on in the season. Tommy Henry for the Diamondbacks in 3 starts. A young guy, a prospect-ish. I mean, he's not really top 100 prospect, but he's a young guy who might do something for him. 4.15 ERA. Underlying metrics say it should be even higher than that. Gets a 107 rating according to the model. Now, I will say with Henry, working with Brett Strom, we talked about he has the ability to make some pitchers better because Strom is one of the best pitching coaches in baseball. He was working with him recently about changing up his grip, holding the ball a little bit deeper when I was breaking pitches so we can really just grip it and rip it, as the term goes in pitching circles. That might help him out a little bit more, so maybe he can be an average pitcher at this point. Again, you got to like what Stromy can do for pitchers there. So I'm more optimistic that this pitcher who gets a 107 rating can be average than most. That doesn't mean I think he is average. It's on the table at least. It's still a starting pitching edge for the Cardinals. The question is just by how much. And can Henry, being a young guy, improve, learn, grow, keep the Cardinals off balance, maybe not a lot of tape on him, that sort of thing. So the only question is how big of an advantage the Cardinals have with regards to the starting pitcher. They, of course, have an edge on offense. They have an edge with the relievers. The Cardinals should be favored. The only question is by how much. Model says minus 149. This is one I looked really hard at. It's a B minus pick. I really looked hard between a B or a C pick. These are the types of B picks that have not gone well for us here as they get favorites to be greater than plus 150. So I'm hesitant on this, but at least for this one, I'm going to stick with it and give this a B grade at plus 160. The edge is pretty large. It's an 11-cent differential. Probability-wise, it's almost 3%. It's a pretty big edge. Let me put it this way. If it was flipped, this would be an A-grade play. If the model had said minus 160 and I was getting minus 149, that's an A-grade play. So I thought, if I flip that and now I'm getting plus 160 in the model, so it should be plus 149, to give that a C grade just feels wrong. It's a decent edge. So again, these are the types of B-grade plays that haven't worked. So like I said, it's a B minus play, but it's just a big enough edge. It's almost like Cousin Jerry talked about yesterday. At some point, the math is the math, right? And it's almost as uncomfortable as that Cubs play was. Cubs, on the road yesterday against the Orioles, an Orioles team that's fighting and playing really well. But I was like, at some point, it just says the math is the math, right? The Cardinals are a much better team. Traveling now across the country here. Diamondbacks didn't play yesterday. I guess they have a rested bullpen. Bullpen's terrible, so it doesn't really matter, right? Or I guess they didn't play yesterday. Gallon played. Nobody else played for him yesterday, right? Gallon just won the game by himself, so the bullpen's rested. I guess what I'm saying, with Gallon taking care of the Giants yesterday. So it's a situation where like I said, it's tough between a B and a C. There's a big edge here on the Diamondbacks. Plus 160 is very tempting. It's worth a look. It might be worth a smaller investment because, again, these types of dogs just haven't done well, but I don't really see why that's going to continue. It doesn't really seem predictive to me. I think it's worth a look here on the Diamondbacks plus 160 to be a good play for me. Again, this totaled 8.5. Model says 8.9. Model says the over's worth a look in this one as well. Same time slot here, 9:40 Eastern. Got a couple of big favorites late. Paulo Espino versus Blake Snell. Espino's a 4.20 ERA. Underlying metrics say it's about accurate. Model does not like him at all. I think he's probably a little more decent than the model thinks. He's very average, but the model just doesn't like him whatsoever. Blake Snell, on the other hand, 3.66 ERA. Playing well lately. Underlying metrics have his ERA closer to 3. He's looked a lot better. So, Snell's increasing outing by outing, it seems like. A game that is going to be chilly in a pitcher's park, but the wind's blowing out a little bit. Model says the total should be 8.3. The actual total is 7.5. I'm not sure I would play this total personally. Again, I don't think Espino is quite as bad as the model thinks. The Nationals relievers are decent. Now, of course, if Josh Hader gets involved in the game, there's a couple extra runs right there. He's the one who blew it last night, really, for the Padres. Of course, Darvish with the first two guys on. Maybe they let him go a little too long. But then Hader comes in and hits a batter and walks in a run and blows it for the Padres. So, he's got to be a disappointment, of course, if you're a Padres fan, hoping to get something better. But he's been bad for the last couple of months. That Padres bullpen below average. So, the model is saying Espino's going to give up some runs. The model is saying that both relievers can give up some runs, so take the over. But I'm just not really convinced. I think Espino's not too bad. The way Blake Snell's pitching lately feels like a low-scoring game. So model says 8.3, but it's not a total that I'd play over personally. I'm on the Nats at plus 296. Model says it should be Padres 290. Only a C-grade play here. It's not drastically different than last night. And I made the comment last night, the game plan for the Nats was, I laid out exactly what the Nats needed to do, and that's exactly what they did, was keep it low scoring in a pitcher's park and then get to the bullpens where it's kind of a wash, and then anything can happen, and sure enough, anything can happen. And the Nats pull it off. And I think it's the same thing here. We talked about it yesterday. I said yesterday explicitly, I said it's not a game I'd be laying the Padres. It's a stay away. That number was way too high. Cousin Jared said the same thing. We kind of talked about some run line options, but just the odds just didn't seem great on any of that. To me, it's Nats or pass today. I would not lay this big number with the Padres. They probably win, but they probably were going to win last night, and guess what? They didn't. And that's the thing we have to remember, is that upsets happen all the time in baseball. Padres minus 335 is the number I'm seeing right now. It's just way too high. Again, model says 290. I'll take a flyer on the Nats. Again, the game plan for them is the same as last night. So when you look at this, the total also offers an interesting angle, because I think if you think the Padres are going to win this, rather than laying that number, I might just take a Padres team total over. I might just take a game over. The way the Padres are going to win this game is Snell dominates and they put up 5 runs on Espino. And so even if you're having to take Padres over 4.5, over 5, that's how they're going to win. That's the most likely way they win, right? I think it's more likely that happens than, the Padres win at like minus 335 or something. So that might be a different way to look if you like the Padres here. But again, I think Espino's decent. Like I said, I'll take a flyer on the Nats here at plus 296. Again, just a C-grade pick. You don't need to invest a lot because it's a 3-1 winner. I don't know if the Nats can do it again. I just think the Padres are overpriced in a game that, again's probably low scoring, and if so, anything can happen. And it kind of plays out like last night. Maybe the Nats win, maybe they lose. But again, I'd much rather be on the Nats than the Padres at these prices. 9:40 Eastern start time. Mariners at the A's. Around 70 degrees to start in Oakland, mid-60s to close. Winds blowing out to start, dying down as the night goes on. Typical night in Oakland. Marco Gonzalez versus Cole Irvine. Irvin's a better pitcher than Gonzalez, a pair of lefties here, where I like the starting pitcher for the A's more. That's, of course, the only place that the A's will have an advantage. Irvine with that 3.13 ERA. He's not that good. That's decreased because of the fact that he plays in such a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but he's still slightly above average. Marco Gonzalez with a 4.18 ERA. That's also deflated because he pitches in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, which shows you how much more I like Irvine than Gonzalez, that if both these guys have deflated ERAs, Irvine still has a full run better than Gonzalez. But again, once you get past that, the Mariners have a much better offense. They have much better relievers. So the Mariners are the side to be on, in my opinion. It's just not favorable enough odds to really like them. And maybe you looked at this game and thought initially that the Mariners minus 132 would be a more favorable play. But the model says it should only be Mariners minus 128, that Irvine is a pretty good pitcher. I've decreased the home field advantage that the A's get in this game, so that's already taken into account because they have nobody showing up for them and they have not played well at home this season. But again, I just don't think minus 132 is a great investment. So I'll be on the Mariners, but it's only a lean. Again, a game that I think is priced pretty well. Maybe you back the Mariners because they've been so good to us, but again, it's not A-grade territory. It's not B-grade territory. It's not the same type of investment we've usually had on this Mariners team, where we've gone pretty heavy on them tonight. If you back them, I think it's worth a small investment at best because, again, I think it's surprisingly priced pretty well, again, because I think Irvine is a decent amount better than Marco Gonzalez is. A game that the total is 7.5. Model says 7.1, and I would look under in this one. I think Irvine can kind of keep the Mariners' bats at bay. Gonzalez isn't good, but facing the A's, kind of talked about with McCullers facing the A's, right? It's a soft landing spot, right? The A's can go a lot of nights without scoring very many runs. I think Gonzalez can kind of hold them down. It's a big park, chilly night. Not a lot of runs usually in that ballpark. If it's a day game, ball tends to carry a little bit different story there. But at night here, I think 7.5. I probably would look under this. Again, model agrees with that. I think under makes a lot of sense out late. Again, I think the Mariners do too. It's just not a great investment at these prices. And to wrap us up, 10:10 Eastern, first pitch, Marlins at the Dodgers. I saw the series. I thought, I kind of know exactly what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say about this series without even looking at any number or any metrics. I'm thinking the Dodgers are going to be overpriced. We're going to be on the Marlins. And this makes a lot of sense to be on the Marlins because what do the Marlins do? They have great starting pitching, and that's it. And that can maybe win a game for you. And at massive plus odds, that's exactly what we're looking for. That's exactly what we're looking for here in this game. The Dodgers should be favorites in this game. They should be massive favorites in this game. The question is just, should it be this much? And my answer is no. Weather-wise, it'll be a normal night in LA. Winds blowing out a little bit, kind of dying down as the night goes on. It'll be low 70s to start, upper 60s to close, so it's fairly decent pitching weather. Total is 8. Model says 7.9, so the model says the total is accurate, but again, I think that this in a more lower scoring environment, right? It's not, St. Louis where it's 100 degrees, and it's not Wrigley with the wind blowing out. It's not Coors, right? It's not a hot day in Atlanta, right? It's a normal kind of more slightly pitching-friendly night. And what do the Marlins do? They got starting pitching. Jesus Luzardo has been fantastic here in his night outings this season, coming back from injuries, looked fairly good for the most part. 3.72 ERA in the season. Underlying metrics say it should be about a half run better than that. He's the exact type of pitcher that I want to go against the Dodgers offense that might control the game, keep them in it, and then at that point, a huge plus odds, just say, hey, maybe we got a shot, And if that plays out here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the same type of game at plus 228 odds, the Marlins just need to win one of them, and we've profited. And or maybe more importantly, you just need to have not played the Dodgers all 3 times, because if the Dodgers lose one game at these prices, you've lost money on the weekend backing them. And talk about run line, same sort of thing. Like, what if the Dodgers win one by one, and then they lose one? Like, you haven't won money, right? So lower scoring pitcher, pitcher duels here. And that's what I expect here with Luzardo and Anderson. Anderson, a 2.81 ERA, great pitcher as well. Underlying metrics do say it should be about a full run higher. Still a solid pitcher. Both these guys, good pitchers. Again, beyond that, the Dodgers are much better, obviously. Model says it should be Dodgers minus 206. So yeah, if you can give me minus 200 on the Dodgers, absolutely I'll take them. But at minus 260, like, my goodness, that's a premium that is not worth the investment. It's Marlins or pass. I'm on the Marlins at plus 228 with a B grade play. My thought, and we'll see about the prices, but my hunch is based off of how the Dodgers have been priced, and with the Marlins good starting pitching, it feels like a series where we're going to back the Marlins with a B grade play 3 days in a row, hope they win one of them, and boom, we've profited. I mean, that feels like the playbook here. Dare the Dodgers to sweep the Marlins. Again, the Marlins don't score and they have bad relievers, but their pitching can win them a couple of games randomly. It's you look back the last stretch for the Marlins. That's what's happened when they've won. It's been their pitchers have done it for them, and that's exactly the type of thing you're setting up here. Luzardo absolutely can do that. Not saying he will, but he can. I don't really think the Marlins win, but I think they win enough times again for this to be profitable. Plus 228 makes a lot of sense. And I think it's correlated to the total. So something to keep in mind here, if you really like the Dodgers, the Dodgers can win a close one, but it's not so much that if the Dodgers win, it will be high scoring. It's that if the Marlins win, it should be low scoring. If it's low scoring, it's 50-50. And that's what we want. If it's high scoring, the Dodgers probably win. So it's like, if you like the over, you probably like the Dodgers. But if you like the Dodgers, you may not like the over. If you like the Marlins, you have to like the under. If you like the under, you may not like the Marlins. Does that make sense? It's one of those things where it's like the square rectangle thing, right? Like every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square, right? You got to think about which one implies which. And I think if it's a low scoring game, the Marlins got a chance, and these odds make a lot of sense. If it's a high-scoring game, I don't see how the Marlins win at all if there's a lot of runs in this. So that might affect how you're playing this, whether it's parlays or whether you just look a different direction. Again, the Dodgers can absolutely win a low-scoring game, but if it is low-scoring, I love these odds. And that's the type of thing I think happens here. I like both these pitchers. I think it's low-scoring, and I think anything can happen at plus 228. So again, my lean would be the under in this one because, like I said, I think it's gonna be low scoring. I think anything can happen, and I'm hoping it's 1-1 in the eighth, or 2-2 in the eighth, and then it's just like, all right, we got plus 228. Let's see if something weird happens so we can pull one out, right? And that's kind of the recipe for underdogs. That's the exact recipe that the Nats got. And if you had them last night, you had plus 300 or something crazy on them like that, had a massive winner. So it's kind of my view on that game. Probably, I think how the series plays out without looking at the pitching matchups and knowing the numbers. It's probably about what we'll see, I think, going forward into that one. So recap, I got 2 plays for you here today. I've got the Orioles at minus 108 at home against the Red Sox, and I've got the Guardians minus 123 at home against the White Sox. Apparently tonight we are anti-Sox. Corny dad joke, I guess. Wear your sandals. I don't know. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Reminder to check out the Google Sheet for model picks, projections, and results. You can find that link and more at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button to ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. I will see you tomorrow. And until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.